Hello everyone. In today's session, we will see the functionality of Git, that is Credential Manager. So once you have installed Git on your Windows system, and after installation of Git, once you have cloned any Git repository, so due to this Credential Manager functionality, very first time when you are cloning any Git repository, it will ask for user credentials. And once you have entered those user credentials, then very next time, if you are going to push, pull, or fetch the code from Git repository, it will not ask for user credentials because those credentials have been stored in Credential Manager in on Windows system. So today we will see that how this credential manager functionality works, how we can unset this credential manager functionality, as well as how to set up this credential manager functionality. So I have already installed Git on my Windows system, and its link is available in the description box. So before working on this Windows system, please download Git on your system. As I have already downloaded Git on my Windows system, so first of all, I will clone a Git repo on my local system. So this is my local system. This is my virtual machine. And on this virtual machine, on this local folder, I will open command prompt. And in this Git folder, I will clone the repository. As you can see that Git credential manager for Windows prompting me to provide user credentials. So as I have told you that when very first time a user clone any Git repository, the Git credential manager will prompt for user credentials. And once those credentials have been stored under credential manager, then very next time when a user tries to push, pull, or fetch the code, at that time the credentials being stored under credential manager will be used, and the user will not have prompt to provide those credentials. So over here I will provide my credentials of GitLab. Okay, and once I have provided my credentials, it has been stored under credential manager. And now using those credentials, system will clone the Git repository on my local machine. Once Git repository has been cloned on my local system, now very next time, if I am going to try git pull command, sorry, I need to change directory to my repository folder. Okay, now if I run this command git pull, at this time the command will not ask for user credentials because it will fetch my user credentials from credential manager. So you can see that git pull command has been executed without credentials. Now to overcome or to force the git to ask user credentials every time, there are two ways. One is temporary solution and one other one is permanent solution. So first of all, let's see the temporary solution. So to temporarily disable this functionality, go to Credential Manager. In Credential Manager, go to Windows Credentials. Over here, you can see that Git has stored user credentials over here. So what I need to do is, I just need to remove these credentials. Okay, So once I have removed these credentials, now if I am going to run this git pull command again, it will again prompt me to provide user credentials. As you can see that once we have removed user credentials from credential manager, and if we run pull, push or fetch command again, it will prompt to enter user credentials. And once I have entered the credentials, it will execute the command. Now, again, if I run the same git pull command, this time again it will not ask for credentials because again credential manager has stored my user credentials. So as I have told you that this is a temporary solution. So now let's see the permanent solution. So for permanent solution, we need to run three commands to check from global, local and system which file system is being used to store my user credentials. So the command is git config dash dash global credential dot help. Okay, so global system is not being used to store my user credentials. Okay, so system file system is being used to store user credentials. And same way if we check for local. Okay, so from global system and local, only system is being used to store my credentials. So now for the permanent solution, we have two ways. One is git config dash dash edit dash dash system. Over here, this credential variable you need to set helper equal to like this. So some blank line. Save it and close it. Okay, so I have got this permission denied issue. Why? Because the command prompt has been opened as a normal user and not as an admin. So what I need to do is I need to open this command prompt as an administrator. Okay, so what I will do is I will open the command as administrator, and then I will change the directory to my Git repository. Okay, and I will execute the same command again. Git config edit system, and over here instead of manager I will put blank line like this and exit it. Okay, now if I run the git pull command again, this time you can see that different scene prompting the user credentials. So earlier when Windows user credential system was being used, at that time it was prompting on UI, but once we have disabled this credential manager, so now it's prompting to provide user credentials in the terminal itself. So here I will provide my credentials. Okay, so now it has executed the command. And as I have told you that it is a permanent solution, so if I run this command again, so it will again ask for user credentials. Okay, so as you can see that it has asked again to provide user credentials because we have already disabled the credential manager functionality. Okay, so let's say if I want to re-enable this credential manager functionality. So I need to run this command again, git config test as edit test as system. Over here, I need to remove this double quotes and just provide the value manager. Again, save it, close it. So as my credentials have been already stored under credential manager, so this time if I run the command git pull, it won't prompt me to provide credentials. Okay, so you can see that git has not asked me to provide user credentials. And third permanent solution is to run command git config dash dash system dash dash unset credential dot help. Okay, and now if we check the system configuration file, you can see that the section of credential has been removed from this configuration file, which means that now git has been forced to ask for user credentials. So now if we run this git pull command, though my credentials have been stored under credential manager, but this time git will not use that functionality and it will be forced to ask to provide user credentials. Okay, and as I have told you that this is the permanent solution. So, like whatever number of times you run any command like pull, push, or fetch, every time it will ask for user credentials. Now, let's say if I want to re-enable this credential manager functionality, for that I need to run this command git config dash dash system credential dot helper, and we need to provide the value manager. Once this is done, and now if we check the system configuration file, you can see that the credential section has been added where it will use credential manager functionality to prompt for the user credentials and to retrieve the user credentials. So now if I run the same command again, it will not prompt for user credentials because these credentials have already been stored under credential manager. Okay, so this is how you can set or unset credential manager functionality and remove your user credential from credential manager of Windows. So that's it for the day. Thank you everyone for watching this video.